friends, today I'm making some apple cake. I had some apples that were getting kind of not so good side, and I figure I utilize them. And I was looking for recipes in my mother-in-law's cookbook. She gave me this cookbook. This cookbook is about 70 years old, and it's written in Portuguese. So she gave it to me because her daughters don't read Portuguese. So I was looking through it and I found a recipe for apple cake. I've done an apple cake before, but I kind of like certain things on her, so I'm going to combine both apple cake together, and we'll see what we come up. But I'm going to use part of my mother-in-law's and part of the one I've made. So in here I have 2 Granny Smiths and 2 Pink Lady apples that I mixed with 1 cup of sugar, regular sugar, and 1 cup of brown sugar. And I'm kind of just mixing until the sugar helps to draw some of that moisture from the apple, and it kind of creates almost like a syrup. So I'm going to leave that aside and let that macerate. I have 1 cup of all-purpose flour. I have 1 tablespoon of baking powder and baking soda. My mother-in-law only used baking soda. And then some salt. And I'm using some cinnamon and some cloves. My mother-in-law only used cinnamon. The cloves was for my other recipe. Some vanilla. In here I had 4 egg yolks, half a cup of oil, and 1/4 cup of butter. The butter was for my cake. The oil was for my mother-in-law's cake. I like the flavor of the butter, but I also like the moisture that the oil gives. So I've been creaming this until they're like a pale yellow. And then I have the egg whites that I'm going to beat and then fold into the cake. I have here about half a cup of buttermilk, but I didn't have buttermilk. I made my own. So I put half a cup of milk and then 1 tablespoon of vinegar. That's how you make buttermilk. So I just finished creaming my butter, the flour with my baking powder, baking soda, and salt. I like the combination of baking powder and baking soda. Baking powder, it makes it rise a little bit more, when baking soda makes it kind of more tender dough, more lifted. And in here I'm going to add the cinnamon and cloves. Mix all this with my flour. And I'm going to put this aside. I love apple cake. Growing up, my parents had a field with different kinds of fruits, but apples was a variety of apples. And I loved the different things my mom would make. I mean, she would make so much jam that would last us a year for us to eat, because that's what we used to take in our lunches. We used to take lunch for school. It was apple jam, it was the blackberry jam, it was the tomato jam. She made jam of every kind you could think she would make. But apple was one big thing because we had so many. And, you know, she wouldn't have, she would try to utilize it as much as she could. And she used to make little pies, anything. So apple cake was one of my favorites, and especially now as we're going into the fall, I love the smell of apple, cinnamon, all those flavors. It just delicious. So anyway, so I butter my buttermilk. I mean my butter, my oil, and my eggs. And I want to show you how beautiful this looks. Look, it's a pale yellow. I'm going to scrape this down, and I'm going to start adding the flour and the buttermilk. And then what we're gonna do is this is gonna be a layer. My mother-in-law, I think she mixed everything. This one is layer. You put a layer of the apples and then a layer of this and kind of alternating. So in here I'm going to add the vanilla. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons. And I'm going to bring this up and mix. 1, 2 tablespoons and mix that good. And then I'm going to alternate adding flour and milk. I'm going to put a scoop and a half of the flour and then a little bit of the milk and mix it. I love desserts like this. Because it makes your whole house smell so good. Yeah? And then I add the rest of the milk, or the buttermilk. I like the buttermilk because it gives a little tang to the cake. And plus, it kind of makes the cake a little bit softer. So I'm going to mix all this and then I'll come back. Okay friends, here's my mixture. And now I'm going to beat my egg whites. And then we're going to fold the egg whites into this. And then I was looking at the recipe. I'm going to mix a little bit of the apples in here because this has no sugar. That sugar is all on the apples. And then we're going to mix some in here and then layer. That way he gets some of the flavor. I love this cake. Okay, I'm adding my egg whites and I'm going to beat them until they're all stiff peak. Okay, I'm going to spray my pan real good, making sure every little piece is covered because I don't want the cake to stick. Okay. And then I add some of my apples. I add about 2 scoops of the apples into my mixture. And then I'm going to layer some of it with all that sugar, all that syrup in the bottom of the cake. So when you flip, you will see the bits of apples. Spread it around. Use a spatula, it's better. So my egg whites, they're stiff peak, and I'm gonna fold them into this. I'm gonna start with half and kind of go vigorously to kind of just give a little lift into this cake. And it's gonna make this cake to be fluffy. And then we're gonna just keep folding the other one. Also, you can add nuts. You can add raisins, cranberries, anything else into the cake. I'm just gonna do just apples. I don't want to add nothing else. My husband doesn't like a lot of stuff in cakes. So anyway. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to fold this. Just keep folding. this around and make sure that all this is incorporated, but not deflating that egg whites. I love cakes, things like this, but I avoid because of the darn sugar. And when I make cakes like this, I'm not going the sugar-free stuff and all that. I want a good cake. So, anyway, so now I'm gonna pour some of this over these apples. And then kind of just continue doing the same thing. I'm gonna spread this up. I'm gonna spread it out. And you do as many layers as you want. Of course, the more layers you do, the more you have that distribution of the apples. You know, another thing you can do is you can add some little bit of rum into these apples. I bet it would be good. Maybe I'll make a rum sauce to go over on when it comes out of the oven. So now I'm gonna pour more of this mixture. I have my oven at 375, and this, it goes baking almost an hour, or depending on your oven, or until if you insert a skewer, it comes out clean. Okay, and I'm gonna put the rest of the apples. This will be the last layer. And make sure to take all that syrup. You know, when we were growing up, my mom would make stuff like this, but we couldn't have it like we do today. And then today, we can't eat it. Life, that's how it is, never happy. Oh, this smells so good, that cinnamon, that clove. Okay, and this is the end of the batter. I'm gonna spread this, make sure this is all even. And then now it's gonna go in the oven at 375. My cake is done. And I made some caramel sauce. And this is another thing you can just drizzle. And this is up to you if you want to add any boost to it. Look how moist this cake looks. It looks so delicious. Now let's try. I haven't had a snack in the middle of the afternoon. So I'm gonna cut it. And it's like I said, it's very moist. And that's how I like a cake. I don't like a cake when it's too dry. And then drizzle some more of that caramel sauce over. And like I said, if you wanted to add some rum, you can make a rum sauce. Look at this. Look how beautiful this is. Oh my gosh, this is so good. It's not a dry cake. Like I said, it's kind of a very moist cake. You have to excuse me, I can't stop. But anyway, here it is. As a fall, we're in the fall, the holidays, and you have extra apples, you don't know what to do with it, make an apple cake. I will leave the recipe, Portuguese and English, under description, so you can do it. And then give me some feedback of what do you think if you make it. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. Give me a thumbs up. Another way is, if you don't want to use the caramel sauce, it can be too sweet, whipped cream. Put a little bit of whipped cream on top of this. Delicious. So anyway, until next time, let's get cooking. Enjoy your day.